Today, there was a sigh of relief across the world. I think in governments, countries, in the European Union, in the UK, across every so-called first world nation and across most of the Eastern and even Western Hemisphere. As we learned for the first time that we will sleep tonight without that horrific tool of propaganda and weaponized abuse. It is true. President Donald Trump's Twitter account has been permanently suspended. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Soutter, and welcome to Overtime. Donald Trump's Twitter account was permanently suspended today after repeated violations of their policy regarding advocating for violence. And what I'm going to do here is let me see if I can catch, actually, I'm just going to, let me see if I can catch the, according to their security blog, President Trump's statement that he will not be attending the inauguration is being received by a number of his supporters as further confirmation that the election was not legitimate and is seen as him disavowing his own previous claims made by two tweets by, his previous claims via tweets by the Deputy Chief of Staff that there would be an orderly transition on January 20th. The second tweet may also serve as encouragement to those potentially considering violent acts at that inauguration. Would be a safe target, as in he would not be attending. Therefore, they could attack the inauguration and it would be okay. His use of the word American patriots to describe some of his supporters is also being interpreted as support for those committing violent acts against the U.S. Capitol. And the mention of his supporters as having a, quote, a giant voice long into the future, and that they would, quote, not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form, is being interpreted as a further indication that President Trump does not plan to facilitate an orderly transition and instead is planning to continue to support, empower, and shield those who he believes, or argues, I suppose, won the election. Yes, the personal Twitter account, which is what Donald Trump has actually been using, his personal account has been permanently suspended once he realized that that was the case, which apparently it took him longer to figure out than most people expected. He realized he does actually have access to a second Twitter account, the official Twitter account of the President of the United States, the POTUS account. He began tweeting off of that, and Twitter apparently caught wise reasonably quickly, and now appear to be deleting any tweets that come from that account. I'm actually going to get into that in a minute because that's a bit more of a thing than, and I won't get into the deep issues on the legality of it. What they're doing is almost certainly illegal, but not doing anything is also illegal. So I guess they're going to have a problem. All right. So Donald Trump is at this point, well, we do this show. And it is our goal, first and foremost, to educate. I think if we couldn't educate and educate well, nobody here would want to do it. But if we can't get viewers, we cannot educate. So we try to have a very nice, fancy layout. And we try to speak in very nice language and to try to do things that make this show more appealing. Because even if this was the most informative show on the planet, if it was boring as fuck, nobody would watch it. And it would be kind of pointless to do a good job if nobody's watching. They actually say the same thing in politics. We cannot govern if we are not elected, which is how and why people are able to justify so many deals with the devil to get into office on the assumption that we'll be good once we're in office. Now, for that reason, it's always tempting to use language that is inflammatory because our sub count goes up when we do it. But that is the crack cocaine of YouTube and of any kind of broadcast media in general, because you always get tempted to use that kind of language, and then you get stuck with the fact that you're not really saying the truth, and pretty soon you're the Jerry Springer of whatever medium you're broadcasting on. So it's a little weird when I find everyone here tossing around words like insurrection, and we realize no one is using hyperbole or metaphor. Now, I still have been referring to the people who were at the protest 2 days ago as protesters. And the reason is first of all, they actually haven't been convicted of another crime. They have, in fact, been condemned by both sides as being seditionists. And I have zero doubt in my mind a number of them were. How many, I don't know. But we aired the footage of that young woman who said, it's a revolution, we're storming the... Okay, you know what? She was a seditionist. Not a particularly bright one, but she was a seditionist. I think there were other people there who were not planning on sedition, and there were plenty of people who remained outside and had no interest in going inside. But there were also plenty of people who planned that event and had every intention of going inside. Nobody knows what their plans were when they got inside, and I don't think they know. I think it appears like different people had different plans. Some of them were going to steal the ballots and run off with them because that's going to change the results of the election. So at least half of them weren't very bright. Wow. Yeah. Okay. I guess some thought they were just going to do a sit-in at the floor of the House chamber on the assumption that that would somehow change things. And I guess I don't know. I think they were all planning different things. But at any rate, it's clear that a tremendous amount of violence could have been done. Any one of the senators in there, all of whom are well above the mean age of for an American in this country, could have had a heart attack and died running from a mob of protests. And there could have been far more violence than there actually was, and we're all very lucky there was not. So I think once Nancy Pelosi starts saying that those were all seditionists, I think you can say that we are witnessing what appears to be some form of attempted insurrection. Now, we'll get into where we're going to go from here and what's happening, but on Monday, articles of impeachment will be brought against the president if he has either not resigned or been removed by the 25th Amendment. Those articles will include one article, which will be, or one charge, which will be incitement of insurrection. This is essentially the single most serious charge you could charge any government official or American citizen, for that matter, with, and they will be dropping that on the President of the United States come Monday. We expect that it's going to hit the floor. It will be fast-tracked, meaning, as I understand it, it's actually going to bypass the vote in they're going to bypass the vote in the committee, oh, dear Lord, I apologize, I'm a little tired. In the, I forget whatever committee it is that creates those, and it will come to me in a second. But they will bypass the committee vote, and they will go straight to discussing it in the House. It will pass the House, period. It will probably take no more than a day or two to pass. It's mostly just procedural stuff that they've got to get through, and any attempts to slow it down by the Republicans. Once it passes, he will be impeached. This will make him the the first president ever to be impeached twice. Being impeached at all is a rare distinction among presidents. Only 3 have now been impeached, and he will be the 3rd and the 4th. So $5 super chat, Michael Westby. Michael, thank you very much. We sincerely appreciate your super chat. This experiment this country has conducted over the last 4 years has proven that the government needs a major revision. Well, I do think there's, I think there's a lot to say. I think that's, yes, I think that's true. I think the biggest thing we need to do is, of course, get rid of crony capitalism. I think you need to get rid of political action committees, and I think you need to get rid of how money is done in Washington. I think after that, 80% of the problems in Washington will solve themselves. You'll still have ones you need to deal with, but it's I think the money, and it's the money that both that congressmen get for staying in too long, and the power that they accrue for getting in too much long, and the money that is given to them by large organizations and or even individual donors. And I think that that's an issue. So at any other point, no other president has been impeached anywhere even remotely close to this end of their term, which means you really have to have pissed off the Senate or the Congress, which reminds me that is one other thing. We've talked about this before. Each branch of the government, 3 branches of government, each branch of the government guards its branch over all other concerns, and they all universally agree with that. It may be that every Democrat in the Senate hates Mitch McConnell, and with every fiber of their being. But if it comes to defending the powers of the Senate from the judiciary or from the executive branch, they usually pretty much speak with one voice because they are congressmen first and their party second. These people fled this building from protesters fomented by Donald Trump, and quite frankly, again, as I said last night, I strongly suspect as well 1,100 National Guard troops that were probably sent to protect the protesters. And once they were in the building, yes, I think once they were in the building, seditionists is probably going to be far more accurate, or revolutionaries, insurrectionists, whatever you want to call them. Once they got inside the building, if they stayed outside, that's one thing. You can't be held responsible for what other idiots at your protest do. But the ones who got inside and who made an effort to get in there, I think there's a problem. So Nancy Pelosi is as angry as I've seen any elected official, and has said, too, that they would indeed proceed as rapidly as possible if he has not been removed by Monday, and that, quote, the president chose to be an insurrectionist, which is about as charged political language as I've ever heard one elected official say to another. Now, everybody has been talking about what is appropriate to happen to Donald Trump. I think that depends on precisely what he's been guilty of so far. He's been fomenting violence, and that's its own problem. But I also think if he sent troops there to protect the, quote, protesters who had made it inside the building and were attempting to secure the building against the federal government, if he sent the troops there to protect them, those inside the building, I think that's the ballgame. I think that's the ballgame. I think that's using the U.S. military to ostensibly, apparently, overthrow a branch of the U.S. government. So I think he's done. And I think they may have a better idea than the U.S. public as to what's happened. I think his cabinet knows, and I think they're talking to members of his cabinet. Members of his cabinet appears not to be talking to anybody, and I do understand why. But I strongly suspect at this point that the original 1,100 National Guard who were deployed and then later reabsorbed into a second deployment by Pence, who has no authority to make those kinds of orders under normal circumstances. I think we are going to find out that the original ones there were there to, quote, protect the patriots. i.e. the seditionists. And that is so much the ball game. So what do we do? Well, incitement to insurrection is one of the few crimes left on the books, which at the federal level is punishable by hanging. I don't think that's going to happen. And since this is actually not a criminal proceeding, it's a trial in the legislative branch, they can't do that. All they can do is remove him. But by nature of the fact that they're using the language incitement of insurrection against the most powerful law enforcement officer in the country, I think it's crystal clear, and given by how many people are resigning as quickly as they can from that administration and denouncing him within his own party, I think it's crystal clear that his administration is imploding and already halfway imploded, and he will never be able to show his face in public, I think, again. I think he's not going to be able to hold any other office again. You also have to remember that he is facing numerous violations of the Emoluments Clause. He is facing likely charges coming both at the state and federal level in several states, including probably D.C. and New York, of racketeering and or money laundering through Deutsche Bank. He is also facing almost certainly somewhere between $800 million and a $2 billion tax bill and tax evasion, which is what landed Capone in jail until he died. He is also facing election tampering and any number of other state violations for suggesting to the Secretary of State of Georgia that he, quote, find an extra, what was it he wanted, 11,000 votes. So at this point, considering the fact that it's already reasonably well assumed that he's actually probably bankrupt, that he isn't going to be able to get any more loans or anything coming out of Deutsche Bank, and if Putin does have any blackmail material on him, there may be no point in releasing it, but there also may be no point in holding on to it anymore either. I think, for the most part, Trump's business, political, and every other kind of life is going to be over. Biden may or may not, in the interest of unity, pardon him. He's not going to be able to pardon him from state crimes, and quite frankly, I don't think that's a great way to start with the Senate, which found themselves running for their lives 2 days ago from a violence that Trump fomented. Now, this is, of course, also letting Mitch McConnell off the hook, but I think that's something they'll get to. And you can't do much legally about Mitch McConnell, but Mitch McConnell is fortunately in his last days as leader of the House. So, at this point, he is in far worse shape than Nixon ever was, and Nixon is ostensibly our most infamous president. I don't think putting Trump in jail is going to do as much damage to him as anyone thinks. I'd like to see him there. I'm not saying let's keep him out, but I don't think it's going to do that much damage to Trump at all. I don't think taking all his money is going to do any real damage to Trump in any sense that's valuable. And by that, I mean, if Trump's okay with things, what have you really done to him? If he doesn't mind being in jail, and I'm sure he's not going to enjoy it, but if he doesn't really mind it, you haven't punished him. The only punishment he fears is being seen as a loser. The only punishment he fears is going down in history as the worst president in this country, and all of us already knew he was before this happened. He will have more indictments against him than the aforementioned Al Capone, and is going to be more despised than Nixon, who, by the way, was actually a pretty good president until the end. At this point, he has almost no friends. He has very few people wanting to support him, and even those who supported him in the Senate during the certification were really supporting an ideology and only for the sake of a television audience because they would have to run for election coming up. What their real views are, nobody knows. Now, I don't excuse it. I think what they did was absolutely irreprehensible. But I'm suggesting that they may not be as pro-Trump as people think. So the question is, I think Trump likes his money, but I don't think he likes it for the money. I think he likes it for the prestige. And he has now lost his Twitter account. And not only that, I may add, and what I'm going to do here really quickly is switch so that we can get his Twitter account in the other window here. And it looks like it's not up. So if it's not up, okay, no, it's in the overload. So I will, I'll switch to the overload. You can see it right down below me. That is Trump's Twitter page today. Those of you who have experience in Twitter, and to the best of my knowledge, that is every human being I've ever met, with the exception of one. And he knows who he is, and I'm looking at him now as he mods in this community. I'm sorry, got distracted. If your Twitter account is suspended, all your tweets are deleted. The cacophony of bullshit, threats, violence, intimidation that has been coming out from that account is all gone. There are records, I'm sure, but if you search Twitter for the white supremacist rhetoric that he has retweeted, it is no longer being platformed by him. You might still be able to find it, but not on that account, because that account and everything it has retweeted, everything it has ever said, everything it has ever done is gone. So I only half say the world rests easier tonight. The reality is, as I realized the implication, when I heard his account was suspended, I've had friends who received a second suspension. Your first suspension is usually timed. His was 12 hours. I heard he got a second suspension, and I said, wait a minute, if they're treating him like everybody else. And I was just like, no. And I go look, and sure enough. And I didn't bother to actually check the rest of the page, and I was just thinking about it later, and I said, wait a minute. If it's his second suspension, not only is it permanent, but everything's gone. And sure enough. So, at a minimum, I think, to tell you the truth, I don't know. Just the idea that he can't now, he decided to grow a brain, and hey, I got a second Twitter account, and he is now blocked there too. This means something really crazy is going to happen probably in the next 8 to 12 hours. Why? He's never been this long without Twitter, and he can't shut his mouth that long under normal circumstances, let alone when he is being unfairly treated as this. He's going to have to speak. He's going to have to speak to someone. My guess is it's going to be Sean Hannity. So if I were Hannity, I'd pick up my phone and leave it off the hook. For those of you who don't know what I just said, just rent any movie, especially like a date or romance movie from, I don't know, prior to 20 years ago. At any rate, he's going to contact Sean Hannity. He's going to contact any number of other people. If he has done with the National Guard what I think he did, he is in so much trouble. It's not. It's well beyond. It is double the trouble he was in when this started. I mean, even with everything else and the calls to violence and the saying, hey, it's double that if he ordered the military to secure Congress against the congressmen who are supposed to be in it, or the building against the. So he's he is in extraordinarily serious trouble. Probably he is in as serious trouble as an American citizen can basically get in, and he's the president of the United States. So his family, which had toyed with the idea of running, will never be able to run. the name Trump will be probably going down in history as more reviled than Benedict Arnold. I am not kidding, because he did commit treason, but he did it only once. And he wasn't president of the United States, entrusted in the highest office we hold. So, though he was not far from it, or not as far as he could have been, I suppose. At this point, we have also learned that as the riot was raging and as they were breaking into those offices, Trump was still calling senators, asking and or demanding them to overturn the results of the election. So I think if he's interested in his name, there's blood in the water now. And I think anybody who has had a gripe against Trump and wanted to sue him for something and has been hesitant because he's been Mr. Teflon, that's over. That's over. You're going to start to see states suing, you're going to start to see businesses suing, and you're going to start to see individuals suing on an unprecedented level. His life is going to be nothing but litigation until the day he dies. Meanwhile, in addition, we have Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell, who were also banned from Twitter today. Microsoft has removed Parler from the Microsoft Store, and Apple and Google are facing pressure to do the same. Parler has been used to, especially by, they are popular especially by right-wing groups as a means of communication. They are, I forget what, like everything from Occupy to sort of what is it? It's not even, Occupy is the really old school. That's, wow, am I showing my age? Black Lives, but they have their own preferred app. Parler is the preferred app of the right wing. And Parler, one popular user wrote, quote, "We will come in numbers no standing army or police agency can match." He said this in terms of Biden's inauguration day, which Trump has now again apparently suggested that by not being there, maybe it's a target available to attack. Another person wrote, "Get the firing squad ready, Pence goes first." So there has been a tremendous outrage against Parler. At this point, Parler has said that they have followed all of the rules for social media. Again, Microsoft has banned them from the Microsoft Store, and I suspect Apple and Google will do so probably within the next 12 hours. That kind of rhetoric has gone unchecked on their site, and it looks like their site is in fact being organized at present to plan an attack during Biden's inauguration. There will be a military presence on there, hitherto unseen. Now, because the DC is not a state, it's a district, and it doesn't have a governor. It's going to be the President of the United States that determines the military presence. However, as we discussed earlier, it appears that most military authority has been at least soft removed from Trump. Pelosi has spoken with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and appears to believe at this point that they have agreed that there will be no new military action without Mike Pence's approval. And which would be its own almost coup d'etat up until about yesterday, which we discussed at some length yesterday with a Xandering person. And once again, we do appreciate his presence to discuss that. But the reality is, it looks like Trump gave an unlawful order. Again, I think that order was probably to protect the insurgents against, there's a slip. The insurrectionists against the Capitol Police, and if that's the case, that's it. They're not going to take orders from him anymore. In fact, they're required not to because he's in violation of the Constitution. So we also have a final count of 5 dead over the siege. 56 officers injured, 68 people arrested, and 17 charged just in the last 24 hours. Amongst those charged is Derrik Evans. He's a delegate from the state of West Virginia. So he's in actually West Virginia state government. He has been arrested for participating in the siege. Also arrested was Nick Ochis. Oh, Jesus, I don't know. Of the Proud Boys, after he posted a picture of himself and another smoking a cigarette from inside the Capitol. I'm really thankful most of these guys are fucking idiots. Yeah. He's been arrested. He's got 3 federal counts. There may be any number of state counts against him. Well, I don't know. Well, D.C. is a district. I don't know. There's local. So there's going to be local counts of some kind, I suspect. We'll figure it out. I don't know. But they are making a push to grab these people as, Parler. Okay. So Parler is now off from Google Play. So when I said in less than 12 hours, I wasn't kidding, I guess. Google Play has removed Parler, and there's no way Apple will not follow suit. They don't want to be the one platform that's got them left. They don't want to do it. So Apple will do it. Thank you for that, Atheist Swede. So that's it. So the good news is with them down, that's going to slow these people down. And with a whole bunch of them being arrested, you know what, they've got more. But they also, they talk a big game about the, hey, there's no army that can resist us. Try the U.S. Army, motherfucker. Excuse the language. I'm really a little... not that language is a terrible issue here, but I try to keep it in some modicum of check. Today may be an exception to that. If you're going to sit there and say no standing army can beat you, I really don't like that kind of bring it on language from Bush, and I was very much against it. But on the flip side, they've got Delta, they've got SEAL Team 6 and all the other SEAL teams, and and you've got whatever it is that you think you've got, and they've got a tank. I'd like to see what you're going to do against that, because there are no actual restrictions in the same way that there are in states into what they can do and deploy, and they will do it. And by the way, they will have drones overhead that will kill you before you realized you had stepped onto the Capitol. So, good luck with that. Really, good luck with that. But I think the arresting of all of these people is a wise idea. Shutting down Parler, doing whatever you can is this is obviously utter insanity. Pelosi has called for Trump to step down. She has said he's not going to be at the. No, it wasn't Pelosi. I'm sorry, I was confusing Pelosi and Pelosi's called for him. She's called him, and the Speaker of the House today called the President of the United States an insurrectionist. So that's a thing. Let's see. So, the governor of Virginia, by the way, wait, that's the governor. No. Okay. Well, the governor of Virginia recounted today how he had gotten pleas for the deployment of the National Guard, the D.C. National Guard, were met with silence. The Capitol building was under siege, and nobody empowered the D.C. National Guard to respond, at least not right away. So he recalls sort of trying to figure out what he was going to do as, governor of Virginia. Probably can't send the troops in, but I guess nonetheless did anyway. And I said, I think there, I'm not sure. I haven't figured out what the over-under is on the legalities of the Virginia National Guard deploying without the president's approval to D.C. to protect the Capitol building. But I assume most people aren't going to object, with the exception of the president of the United States. But no answers as to what caused the delay. Alaska Senator Linda Murkowski called on President Trump to resign and said that if her party cannot separate itself from Trump, she does not see herself in that party. This is not surprising and yet staggering. The reason why is this. She has always been a power player in the Republican Party by not really being a Republican. It's always interesting that it's the people who are furthest from the party core that can sometimes have the most power, because as somebody around the center, Democrats have always courted her, and she can always flirt with the idea of flipping and voting Democrat. And so the party has to give her extra favor and consideration without pissing off other members to try to get her vote in tight votes. And if she's saying she's going to flip, now she's not going to become a Democrat. She said she would become an independent, but she's talking with the most conservative Democrat on the Hill, who is courting her to leave. If she leaves, that would bring them down from 50 senators to 49. Now, they've already lost the House, so it's not a game changer in that sense, but it means one more vote up for grab and means just that many more pieces of legislation where it's just a little easier to pass it as long as you don't go past the 50-50 margin. It's a little extra buffer. It ain't a lot, but and she's giving up a little bit of her position as a power broker, as an independent. She's still important, but that's still, she's willing to leave the party. So I think that's a lot. So meanwhile, I mean, good news, I guess. Incoming Congressman Mary Miller, she is a Republican from Illinois, has suggested that perhaps it was a bad idea to suggest that Hitler had some good ideas while on the lawn of the Capitol the same day. Who'd have thought that wasn't the big news of the day? She appeared to suggest at first that it was an accident and that it was an impromptu speech. This is not the case, but she later apparently copped to, yes, she should not have said that. And she said that she has spoken with members of faith, and she has apologized for any harm her words have caused and regrets using a reference to one of the world's most evil dictators to illustrate the dangers of outside influences can have on our youth. That wasn't actually what she was doing. She was trying to suggest why we should covet our youth, or covet, why we should treasure our youth and try to insulate them, yes, from such dangers. But she was using Hitler as an example of insulating them from the dangers, saying that Hitler had suggested we need to insulate our youth from the dangers of the outside, and he was right, is what she said. So she's misrepresenting even what she said here, and oh dear Lord, she's going to make a decent politician. She has said that dark history should never be repeated, but while some are trying to intentionally twist my word, one other thing we neglected to really hit on the show, which I thought was probably worth mentioning. One of the things that Hitler got right implies that there are other things that he got right. And I think if you're going to say one of the things he got right, it probably is incumbent on you to A, maybe elucidate on what those are, and more importantly, elucidate on what they are not, so that there isn't any confusion. But I think one was enough, and suggesting that there were more may not have been a wise idea or particularly constructive. At any rate, I know you can't impeach. Now, by the way, for those of you who don't know, you can impeach any elected member of government. That includes judges, and you can impeach congressmen. And I think she should be impeached, and I would quite frankly like to see her impeached. You just can't until she gets into office. But if you're going to say Hitler had some really cool things to say about parenting, I think both Pelosi and whoever is the new majority leader in the actually no, she's going to be in that. No, of course she's going to be in. She's going to be in the. I think Pelosi needs to have a little talk with her and say, yeah, in this body we don't sit here and talk about maybe he had some good ideas, and it's 30 seconds past midnight. You now work for us. Here are some articles of impeachment. Have fun. Of course, technically that won't work because she did this before she was a congressman, but Jesus. Get her anyway. Travis Fisher, $5. Could Donald Trump be charged with 2 counts of inciting sedition? One for Wednesday? Absolutely. Absolutely. Wait, another for the kidnapping plot. Yeah, I said absolutely before I read the second half. So another for the yeah, okay. So if you have two questions, could he be charged for two counts? Yes, he could. He got I mean, they could charge him for 16 counts of any one crime that they want to. I that I'm aware of, nobody has. Well, and this brings up an interesting point. Okay, that I'm aware of, nobody has linked him specifically with that plot. Now, obviously, if he's inciting violence, then you can say, okay, well, then in any case. But by the way, that plot wasn't insurrection; it was just kidnapping. They weren't necessarily trying to overthrow the government. They were trying to make a political point by what would be a political assassination. Those are two different things, believe it or not. Now, nonetheless, even if you could link his violence to that. Here's the thing. He's been saying violent and stupid shit for a very long time. So what's the difference from yesterday or 2 days ago? Well, the first obvious difference is people really acted on it. But before he was in office, he said, I will pay the legal bills of whoever punches that man in the face. And someone did. So he's been doing this for a while. This isn't a new surprise. So why the overreaction? Why the huge reaction? And in part, it's because of the degree of consequence, but I think also in part because I have, at this point, my confidence in the fact that he ordered the military to involve themselves in this is extraordinarily high. Because the other thing is, of course, and we talked about this briefly, but it's just he's done all this before. And while, yes, the consequences were serious, no congressmen were killed. 5 people were killed. And that I can tell all of them were, all but one guard was killed. All the others were the insurrectionists. So I understand why we care. It was the Capitol building, but on the flip side, it still feels like a disproportionate response, giving the precedent he said already that we've ignored. I think he involved the military. I think Pelosi knows that by this point. She's not saying it because she doesn't want to increase violence. She's not saying it but she wants him gone. And she knows McConnell knows it. My guess is all of the senior members of government, if it's true, they all know it and they want him gone. And they, at this point, they're like, no. If you deployed the military, that's it. Game over. If you deployed the military against a branch of government, game over. And I think that's what these articles of impeachment are about. By the way, keep in mind, this has to get through the Senate, and that's going to be a tough one. And what Mitch is probably going to do, it looks like, is delay it until after the inauguration, which means it's going to fall to the new Senate. And who knows what really happens there, because you can actually still have the trial if you wanted to, but it would be kind of a moot point because it's like trying to convict a dead guy. What are you going to do if he's dead? You can't kill him twice. So I think once he's out of office, all of this is moot. Now, he can still go for criminal charges. The federal government can still go after him. But at any rate, I think it's apples and oranges. I don't think they're really going after him for the inciting violence. I think that's a huge part of it. But I think it's the deployment of troops. When that's going to come out, I don't know. But that's what I'm expecting. We'll wait and see. That sort of only half answers your question, I know, but I think that question is a bit different than what... At any rate, no, I don't think they'll go after the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping attempt because, A, they got him on so much at this point. What's the point? It was long ago relative to all this news. There's a million reasons I don't think they're going to do it. So... All right. Let's see. So we've got, yeah, okay. And so, wow, I think we've almost kind of gotten through. We're basically getting new news every 10 minutes, which is a great time for me to remind you, if you want to keep an eye on it, go hit the Discord and you can, keep up on all the news and you can talk with me. You can talk with everyone else who contributes to the show, talk with complete strangers. I've been told I'm getting stranger, so talk with me, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. At any rate, wow. It looks like, multiple Republicans are considering impeachment. I think there's going to be a serious push to get him gone. I think this is beyond the pale. I think at this point, Everybody is upset, and I don't think anybody wants to be the one defending Trump at this point, even if their constituents want it. I think most senators at this point are looking at this saying, okay, unless they're up for re-election in the next term, which would be the midterms, which would be in 2 years, unless they're up at that point, in which case maybe they have to worry about it. But even then, they're sitting there going, okay, do I defend Trump? In which case I go down with that guy and I go down with that boat, and maybe I get his voters on the next run, but I lose every other person in my district to do it. And do I want to go down in history? Like I said, he is going to go down in, this is a new level of history. Nixon, we still talk about Nixon. How many years ago was that? And with all of the other terrible presidents, and there have been a few, we don't talk about them because Nixon dwarfed them all. Nobody's going to be talking about Nixon 50 years from now because they're like, oh yeah, Nixon did some crooked stuff, but wait till we teach you about Trump. No, nobody wants to be associated with that. And anybody who says a thing out of line is going to go down in the history books. That's why Pence is so scared, because history's watching. So, the Mike Nerman thing, yeah, but that was the state. Yeah, that was the other one. So I'm going to avoid that. Now, we have two other pieces of news, and it's just because for those of you who thought you had escaped 2020, and I'm sorry I have to tell you this, polar vortex, a vortex of very cold air in the upper stratosphere, I believe it is. It's well above sort of where planes fly, but it's swirling really frigid air. And usually stays up there, but can get knocked down by any number of things. It warms up, of course, some as it gets knocked down, but it's still colder than the air that we normally have around here. Is going to get knocked down. It's been knocked down before. We've been through it getting knocked down. When it gets knocked down, we usually experience extraordinarily cold temperatures, well below average, usually for about 10 to 14 days. And the consensus is, as of today, the polar vortex is likely to strike in the northern hemisphere, meaning Canada, northern, and especially the northern part of the United States. So, I mean, I was there for the last one, and it was cold. It was 20 degrees at least on average colder, if not 30 degrees colder than it usually is. And I mean, it was serious. So that was cold, and it's back, and it looks like it's going to hit. It looks like it's going to hit soon, is what they're saying. So, dear Lord, it just doesn't stop, does it? And unfortunately, I have to say, COVID deaths today exceeded 4,000 in one day, with a total number of deaths now in excess of 365,000. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the rundown from top to bottom. That's I think for the most part the news. That's a lot to cover. I hope we hit it all. I think we hit most of it there. I think there's going to be I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Trump at this point to resign, and I think he's going to be facing the same situation that Nixon was. And by the way, Nixon resigned before he was impeached. He didn't want to go down as a president who was going to be impeached, and he also knew that the impeachment was probably going to succeed. So he would have been an impeached president, and probably a successfully impeached one, meaning he'd have been, and yes, I know I'm using those terms not entirely accurately, but nonetheless, he'd have been removed from office. He bailed beforehand, and as much as his name is really tarnished, it would have been more so if he had to have been pulled out kicking and screaming. And so I think the pressure is going to be on Trump to resign. Pence, nobody wants to make Pence pull the trigger on 25. I don't think he wants to, and if it's not going to pass the Senate, he's not even going to bother. He's not going to try. He will not try if he's not sure it'll pass the Senate. So I think nobody wants to put him into that. I mean, that's a horrible position for him to be put into anyway. He's the vice president, and he has to remove his president. to whom he's actually really been fiercely loyal up until this point. And then nobody's going to want him around because, truth be told, even though everyone knows it's right, everyone remembers he's the guy who betrayed his boss one way or another. That's funny how that's often the part they remember, even if he did it for the right reasons. That's often the part they remember, at least in the short term. So I think, yeah, Mitch McConnell doing a head count already. I don't know that. I don't think McConnell's doing a head count at all, truth be told. Nope. McConnell, I doubt McConnell's doing a head count. He doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to know if it's going to pass or not. A, it doesn't affect him the slightest. It really doesn't. B, once he has those numbers, everyone's going to ask him those numbers, and he doesn't want to give them to anybody. He doesn't want to be involved in this. Whoever he gives them to, he's picked a side. If he tells Trump, he's picked a side and defended Trump. If he tells Pence, he's picked a side. If he tells anybody, he's picked a side. He is not doing a head count. No. He's staying out of it, would be my guess. Pence is trying to do a head count, but he has to do one without anybody finding out because, in this case, the very thought is essentially committing the act itself, like a true Christian, at least a Catholic. So he is, what he's doing is he's sitting there. If there is anything below a 95% chance this is going to work, he won't pull the trigger on it. So he's trying to figure out what's the probability, and I don't think he's going to get to 95%. I don't think he's going to get to 50%. He'll get over 20%, but he won't get to 50, and he won't do it at less than 95, would be my guess, unless it's something really strange happens. But, okay, look, Murkowski's an example. Okay, you just got a Republican who flipped. Now, I forget how many you need to flip. He's got every Democrat. How many do you need to flip? McConnell isn't doing the head count for another reason, which is he doesn't want it to go through. As soon as he does a head count, he's going to know whether it's going to go through or not. And if you know, that increases the chances it's going to happen. I mean, if you know and it would pass, then okay. If you know and it's not going to pass, okay. But if you don't know, nobody wants to take the risk. So finding out is the worst thing you can do. I don't think McConnell's asking. Well, yeah, 67, thank you. But the question is, what's the difference? So how many Republicans do they have to flip? How many Republicans have to vote with the Democrats? And it's the same number. It's been like all 4 years, and I can't memorize it. So, you got all the Democrats are going to vote yay. How many additional Republicans have to vote yay? How many have to be flipped? Now, Murkowski, you can flip. You can probably flip 5 or 6 others. You can flip, I can think of a whole bunch. 17. I always want to say 13. Thank you, Atheist Swede. So they have to flip 17. I think they got a solid 10 maybe. And they're reasonably okay on another 5. That doesn't get them there. And again, he has to know. He has to know or he's not going to do it. So, all right. So he's not going to pull the trigger on it. But they can pretend that they don't know that. So they go to Trump and they say, look, we talked to Pence. He doesn't want to, but Pence, he refused to not certify the thing. He's going to do what he's going to do. You got a choice. Become the first president ever to be impeached for 2 articles of impeachment. Let one of them be inciting resurrection, which there will probably never be in the history of this country ever again. An article, more charged or stronger than that. Or you can bail. Then you don't get impeached, and you can stem the losses. And then we can, instead of saying 80 people bailed on your administration, we can say it's the 8 or 9 that already have already. Get out now. Get out. You're done anyway. You were going to spend all this time golfing or in Mar-a-Lago anyway. You don't care about COVID. You're not attending the inauguration. You're not, you don't care about any of this, and you've lost everything. What are you sticking around for? To show how many times you can lose? If Hannity tells him that, I think he may go. I think there's a possibility. It seems counterintuitive. I think there's a possibility. It wouldn't be the first time I called one of these things wrong. I think there's a possibility. Because he's also fucking exhausted. Now, he's rage-filled and all these people are assholes and all this other stuff. But the other thing is, he can go, and then he can say, well, I wasn't going to go, but Pence told me to, and he betrayed me, that son of a bitch, and I thought if I went, maybe he'd, be good to me, but all of which is a lie, but he'll throw somebody else under the bus for his leaving. He likes nothing more than to be a victim, so he may consider going, and he doesn't, and I can't even imagine, to be honest, I can't imagine what it's like to be his kids right now. and Don Jr., who is, I think, worse than his dad, probably, and closer to a sociopath. Don Jr. is starting to, I think, realize that all his joking and bloviating about how awesome they are the day after this happened may have been a bit premature. So we will see. Yeah, I lost the popular vote twice. Yeah. So he's basically he's going to get impeached once for every time he lost the popular vote. That's cute. All right, so what I'm going to do real quick is I think I'm going to very quickly just look and see if I missed anything in the live chat. I really got a hit, but thank you very much all for the super chats. I'm then going to talk very briefly about what I think we're going to be seeing over the next few days, and then what to expect come Monday. And I think there's a couple of things that we're going to be looking at, but all right, so let's just see. Quickly looking over the side chat here. Yeah, I think actually that's not my understanding of impeachment. Even if he's impeached, he can in fact actually come back and hold office. In fact, he can hold the same office he was impeached from. It just means they remove him from that office. That's all it means. Well, and actually, that's not even impeachment. All impeachment means is the articles have passed and he stands impeached, which is to say that they have the one branch of government has said that he is not capable of he's been charged with not being able to hold his office, and then there's a trial. So an impeachment doesn't even, once he's impeached, it doesn't mean that, I mean, Clinton was impeached, but nothing happened because the Senate voted no. And Trump was impeached and nothing happened because the Senate voted no. So impeachment alone does actually very little. It just means it's going to be a trial, and we're all going to have to figure out what's going to happen with that. One fell off the wall. Well, that's oh dear Lord, that's why you don't climb the walls of Congress. Yeah, he's well, and he's asking his lawyers about. I love this. How do you have this conversation? I just wanted to know. I've never even tried a Donald Trump voice, so please forgive me. I just wanted to know, just hypothetically, in case it were ever to be relevant, could a president of the United States pardon himself, asking for a friend? Yeah. Oh, dear Lord. Oh, my God. I'm not okay. I like that comment, but I'm not quite going to repeat that one. It's a good one, but I'm not going to repeat it. Oh, dear Lord. Okay. Oh, good. Well, that's a good thing. That's good. I guess I have an ear for it. All right. Well, so I think at this point, yeah. All right. So what we're looking at is you're going to see a lot of people bailing rapidly on this, and the reason is because you are talking. The language that is now being thrown about, and not by just people on the street who are pissed, but by the Speaker of the House, is treason. And you have former Republican Joint Chiefs of Staff. You have his own former Chief of Staff, and I said Chief of Staff, I meant Joint Chiefs of Staff. So it's heads of the military, plus his former Chief of Staff, who was also, I think, a former head of chief, but certainly a 5-star general, saying he has to be gone, and he has to be gone now, which also suggests to me he's abused his military power significantly. So I think you're going to start to see everybody say, I don't want to be the last one to get on the we're leaving here boat, and I don't want to be the last one to say Trump needs to be kicked out. So I think things are going to pick up pace. I think tomorrow is going to be a very busy day in terms of condemnations. I think it's also going to be a really busy day in terms of arrests, because for the FBI, this is all hands on deck, put everything else down. Because the more of these guys they arrest, the less likely is to be any violence or significant violence on Inauguration Day, and they are running out of time. So fill up the jails, and even if you just have to detain them until after the inauguration, I think you're going to see a serious attack on any kind of... The fact that Twitter banned his account, I think, is actually rather telling. And the fact that they then that they've been deleting accounts from the official POTUS, that's illegal. They can't do that. I think they're doing the right thing. I don't think they're going to get in trouble. It's sort of like running a red light when, your wife is in the back about to give birth and is hemorrhaging. It's sort of like you run the red light to get to the hospital. You're not going to get arrested for it, but nonetheless, just keep in mind, a corporation doesn't make the conscious decision to violate the law and violate it against the president of the United States with the entire country watching. They don't make that decision without really having thought it through. So, all right. So, and then I'm going to, so give me 1 second, folks. Also, let me just check that real quick. Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of stuff happening with that. I think you're going to see the impeachment articles, but I think everyone's going to try to force him to resign. I think the resignation is what they want. So, yeah. Okay, so Atheist Sweep did that in the news sharing, which is, the right-wing extremists are vowing to return. I think they're going to see an astonishing military presence. And again, since they don't have drones, I think there's going to be drones over there. There's going to be no airplanes except for F-16s, drones, tanks, snipers everywhere. I got to tell you, you'd be an idiot to, so hold on a second. Let me just check one thing here. Oh, dear Lord. All right. Those of you who've been on Twitter before know the following, which is that, and there are nuances to this and people try to get around it. Yeah, you're not allowed to try to evade a Twitter ban, and Trump has been banned on Twitter. And actually, it's now a lifetime ban, which means Trump is never allowed to tweet again, ever. He's just not. He's not allowed to tweet again, period. And he was trying to get around it with the POTUS account. They didn't want to block the POTUS account for obvious reasons, but they're deleting everything that's coming off of it, and I think that's a good compromise. They don't want to, smart, don't block it. Don't block it, but delete everything that comes out of it. And his account's blocked. And like I said, I mean, it's all. Do you remember all the vitriol that's come out of that account? That is gone. When you get up from your keyboards or wherever you're sitting and watching this thing, and you realize that it's a little easier getting up, that's because the internet lost 15 billion pounds of shit just by blocking everything that man has said to and about war heroes, veterans, even enemy combatants, but, other human beings. Gone. I actually really find that comforting, to tell you the truth. But apparently it looks like Rush Limbaugh has also been banned. I am not entirely sure why, but I suspect he said something that was pro-Trump in a way that you got to be careful about. Rush Limbaugh has now been banned, as has Trump's digital campaign director, who has violated their policy on enabling others to evade a ban by trying to let Trump go from that account. So that has been banned, which also means when Trump sits there and goes to his campaign director and says, I want the campaign Twitter account, they say, you can have it because we can't stop you. But if you do, the entire Trump campaign is probably going to lose their Twitter account. But at any rate, yeah, it looks like their digital director has lost his account. Well, it's suspended. I don't know if it's temporary or permanent. That's why I hate the fact that Twitter uses the same language. The first one's usually a timed suspension, and then the second one's a permanent. That's what happened to Trump. And Rush Limbaugh is gone. I don't know if it's, I have no idea. No, it doesn't exist. It's a permanent. Yeah, he's gone. And what is that? Stone Toss Comics, which I will confess I don't even know what that is. Am I going to get in trouble for saying that aloud? Is that one of those keep that to yourself kind of things? Stone Toss Comics. I don't know who that is, but apparently like I said, Flynn is gone, and Flynn should have been gone a long time. At this point, Flynn has a better reputation than Trump. Wow. Oh, he was producing a meme genre critical of progressive values and supportive of Trump. Okay, so you are a media mogul at this point. You are a big fan of Trump, whether you're the Murdoch Empire, whatever you are, and even the Murdoch Empire. You're watching what's happening. You will have to pick a side. There is very precious little time for not picking a side. If you don't pick a side, you picked a side. So now it doesn't mean they have to come out and condemn Trump, but holy smokes. So yeah, he's going to lose. Anybody in the media now has to bail. They have to bail. They can't even, because everything's being this is so unprecedented. It's not just him losing his Twitter account, but now anybody who tries to help him get it back is going to lose their Twitter account. Anybody who if he calls up Sean Hannity and says, tweet this for me, Hannity has to say no, or Hannity loses his account. It's really nice to find. I would like to have the conversation on how late it took, and that that's not acceptable, and it is too late, but it ain't too little. They're doing the right thing. They're finally doing the right thing. So thank God. It looks like, so we now have Microsoft has suspended, what was it, that company? Microsoft has blocked them. Apple has not, but Google has. So we're going to see a huge, I think, social media push to stop all of this. Facebook has also made some moves. I don't have that. Facebook blocked 4chan has gotten notice that Cloudflare is removing them from its service. Kiwi Farms is down. Holy smoke. Kiwi Farms, for those of you who don't know, is a site that's actually used mainly for, it's a dark website. It's used for attacking people. It's used for trolling. It's used for destroying people's lives and reputations. And they go on, they say, who are we going to go after today? And they find a person, they go after them. And Kiwi Farms, they've been trying to take Kiwi Farms down for a while. Kiwi Farms is down. 4chan could probably operate without Cloudflare, but it depends on what they were using Cloudflare for. Cloudflare is a third-party service. They protect websites, in part, they protect websites against denial of service attacks, and they also enable DNS, not DNS, oh my God, it's not DNS. What is it? Well, they do DNS too. They do CDN, that was what I was looking for, a content delivery network so they speed up sites by copying pieces of your website all over the country so that when somebody in California loads your website, they don't have to load it from New York. So if Cloudflare isn't going to support them, depends on how much they offload to Cloudflare, but 4chan is going to be in trouble. Now, 4chan has a lot of, it's a dark website, but if it's inciting violence, I was unaware of it, but who knows? I don't know. I'm not an expert in 4chan. I know everyone's shocked. So it looks like, there's going to be, and at this point, it's going to be a list. I think folks, we are going to be doing a show every single night, I think probably for a week. There's going to be something happening. So we're not going to be able to run down. We're going to be able to run down the big ones. But you're going to see some significant changes in social media. I'm usually against these kinds of rapid changes. I was about to say rapid changes quickly. I was really about to say that, dear Lord. I'm against these kinds of rapid changes, sudden and rapid changes. That I can say. I'm usually against it, and the reason is because, again, that is usually what you see in a successful coup d'etat attempt, is you try to get out everybody who's not cooperating, and you do it really quick. The problem is, one of the reasons they have to do it here really quick is because there's going to be an attack, and everybody knows there's going to be an attack because the people who weren't arrested on the first one, which is 90% of them, have said they're going to come back. So, and since they've been empowered by the President of the United States, this has to stop. This is This is, I'm going to use, I don't think this is hyperbole. This is almost a September 11th level event in this country. I mean, it's the President of the United States, according to everybody you talk to, engaged in insurrection. And if he deployed the military against the Congress, which again, I think he did, then yes, it's insurrection, it's treason, and it is probably the single most significant political event in this country's history. Right now, you go back about as far as the Civil War. If he deployed that military, probably the single most significant event in the history of the United States. So, okay, thank you guys for passing that to me and getting my attention before. Statement from Donald Trump. As I've been saying oh my God, of course he's criticizing Twitter, who's let him get away with everything. As I've been saying for a long time, how long? 30 minutes? Twitter has gone further and further in banning speech, and tonight Twitter employees have coordinated with the Democrats and the radical. He is inciting violence again. When there's a group of people who already are blaming the liberals and the Democrats and saying shoot them and saying they're the... Wow, you can't fix stupid. Well, you can, but that's hopefully with 300 years in Leavenworth. Coordinated with the Democrats and the radical left in removing my Twitter account from their platform to silence me. Did he really put a comma in there? I'm sorry. I'm just... and you don't... Well, of course, he's writing actually kind of the way I do, so I'm not going to criticize him. He's breaking the rules, but it's the same way I break the rules, so shit. 75 million great patriots who voted for me. Dear Lord, oh my God, this is not good. Now, this is from Hans Nichols, who I assume is the acting press secretary. But if this came out, okay, this is a White House, this is a White House pool report. So I don't know, so I don't know who Hans Nichols, that may just be a staffer and or going out, this was shared with the pool. So this was not a press release, so that is a good thing. This was not an official White House press release. But nonetheless, I'm going to argue it's incitement to violence again. I'm sorry. You want me to hear this? You don't want me to opine on it, but I just can't finish it. And you, the 75 million great patriots who voted for me. Twitter may be a private company, but without the government's section. Oh my God. That's like saying it may be a private company, but without the military guarding the borders and keeping the Ruskies at bay. So it has to do with the government's. Oh my God, he didn't just argue this. This is essentially an argument for why every single private company is beholden to the U.S. government. That is the argument he is starting to make, and that is once again the next argument that you would find. If, and especially if, he is a dictator wanting to throw over the government. For those of you just joining us and are reasonably new at this, we did it was a Xandering person again, it's just he happens to be the lucky one. We did a piece comparing Trump to Pinochet, and we started this when he was kidnapping U.S. citizens off the streets in Portland, Oregon. And we said, the problem with this is the first step in a dictatorship. He has now gone in order in the steps 3, 4, and 5. Wow. I predicted this would happen. We have been negotiating with various other sites. Oh, this is important. This is very important. We have been negotiating with various other sites, and we'll have a big announcement soon. We also look for the possibilities of building our own platform in the near future. We will not be silenced. He's conceded the election. No, he hasn't, actually, technically, so I stand corrected. Twitter is not about free speech. Correct. They are not a government organization. I'm glad he's finally gotten one fucking civics thing right. They're about promoting a radical left platform where some of the most vicious people in the world are allowed to speak freely. Oh, he's right. He's right. He's right. He's right. They've been allowing the most vicious people in the world to speak freely until tonight. Oh, dear Lord. All right. From the top, without the sarcasm. Statement from President Trump shared with the pool, which I thought didn't exist anymore. Oh, dear Lord. Okay, that's a problem. Trump's statement regarding his Twitter account. This went out at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8:34, so that's a little more than 2 hours ago. As I've been saying for a long time, Twitter has gone further and further in banning free speech, and tonight Twitter employees have coordinated with Democrats and the radical left in removing my account from their platform to silence me and you, the 75 million great patriots who voted for me. Twitter may be a private company, but without the government's gift of Section 230, they would not exist for long. I predicted this would happen. We have been negotiating with various other sites, and I hope they've been negotiating with sorry. And we'll have a big announcement soon, while we also look for possibilities that he has to be removed. You have to get him out of here. Building our own platform in the near future, we will not be silenced. Twitter is not about free speech. They are about promoting a radical left platform where some of the most vicious people in the world are allowed to speak freely. Stay tuned. So, okay, we've just covered a whole bunch of problems. He's inciting violence. He has suggested that Twitter belongs to the government because it's got government protection. And there's a whole bunch more. But this was another story that I was going to cover, and then I moved on, and I realized is bigger. He has now suggested that they are starting their own platform. They, as in the true patriots, which is anyone who thinks that the election should be overturned. Seditionists. So now my thinking is that he's actually talking about, and I've forgotten the name of it, Parler. And my suspicion is he's talking about that because he probably has a better idea of what, that's one of the very few things related to computers he probably understands better than I do, because that's his demographic and that he cares about. He probably still doesn't know how to use it, but he knows who they are more than I do. So, but they have been deplatformed, and if they get completely deplatformed, now he's going to try to make his own platform, but I don't know what organization would want to work for him. Oh my God. This really doesn't just stop, does it? So what we're looking at now, I'm going to have to do a rundown. I didn't think I'd have to do a rundown. I'm going to have to do a rundown. We're going to do a rundown in hopefully about 1 minute. And we're going to cover basically everything we've done in the show, and we're going to try to do it in 2 minutes. I don't think we're going to get it done. But for those of you who want to know what's been going on, I'll try to do it in 2 minutes. So, at this point, Nancy Pelosi has said that the president has chosen to be an insurrectionist. They are going to drop articles of impeachment on him by Monday. The hope is that Pence can get the 25th Amendment invoked. If he does, to be precise about what happens is, if he does, actually the president is immediately suspended if it's successful. I did not realize that, and that is so. To be clear, if he invokes the 25th Amendment, he is required to get a majority, a simple majority of the cabinet to agree with him. If that is successful, the president is immediately suspended. However, if the president objects, Congress is required to immediately hear it. The objection will be sustained unless 2/3 of Congress vote to override the objection. So at that point, there has to be a 2/3 override by Congress. All right, I'll check it. 2/3 override by Congress on the objection. If they get it, he's out. He's out temporarily, really, but at this point, temporarily would exceed, I think it's 1 month, and then it's up for review, so he's done. So they'll probably get it in the House. The Senate is iffy. I doubt Pence will do it without knowing for certain he'll get the Senate. So the question is, can they get him to resign? I think the chances are increasing. I think right now they're 50-50. I think it's increasing. We also have a number of people on Parler talking about returning, and that no, quote, no standing army or police agency would match them. They've also said to get the firing squad ready and line up Pence first. There is, and we were going to report this yesterday, but geez, it slipped through the cracks that they've actually already started scheduling, and they've said, okay, we're going to return on this date. They haven't left. There has actually been minor skirmishes already. They are there. They are there in very small numbers, relatively speaking. And as long as they're nonviolent, but they're there. And it's the same guys, and it's the seditionists. So in an effort to prevent any further violence on Inauguration Day, the federal government has been in a mad scramble to arrest as many people who broke into the Capitol building as possible. They've been arresting and detaining as many as possible. They have been charging as many as possible, as quickly as possible. They've been shutting down Twitter accounts. They've been shutting down social networks. Parler is a right-wing social network. It's not a right-wing, no. It's a regular social network, but the right wing seems to have glommed onto it. It has now been blocked by Microsoft and Google. Apple is expected to follow. Trump's Twitter account has been permanently suspended, and all evidence it ever existed, for the most part, has been erased from Twitter. All of his tweets that he's ever made since even before president, since his very first tweet from his very first Twitter account, all are gone, ostensibly never to return. Since, I guess, his digital head of digital media in his campaign let him borrow their account, he tried to tweet from that. That account was suspended for allowing somebody who has been banned to try to circumvent that ban. He tried to use the POTUS account. Now, any tweets coming out of the POTUS account are immediately deleted. Also, Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell have been banned from Twitter. And let's see, we have Derrik Evans, from delegate from the state of West Virginia, has been arrested, as has Nick Otis, who is one of the Proud Boys. Both were present at the Capitol building. They were in the Capitol building when it was attacked. They were part of the attack. This is now up to 17 people who have been charged. And you can expect that number to rise dramatically and quickly. We have more people wanting to know why the National Guard took so long to get there. I am reiterating my position that the first deployment of the National Guard of 1,100 troops was actually far more likely than not at this point deployed to protect the, quote, patriots, which would be the insurgents. And I have a $2 super chat from Jake 4D. Trump branded 4chan. Is that what the? I'll have to explain that. Just yeah. What Trump branded 4chan? Is that what the? I'll get to it. Let me finish the rundown because there are people who want to hear this. The Alaska Senator Linda Murkowski, who is often referred to as the swing vote in the Senate, she has said that she will leave the Republican Party if they do not abandon Trump. She has said, quote, speaking to Trump directly, she has said, "I think you should leave." And then, well, now she's not speaking to him directly, I guess. So I think you should leave. He has said he's not going to show up, i.e. he's not going to show up to the inauguration. He's not going to appear at the inauguration. He has been focused on what he's been doing with his, I don't know what that word is. Sorry. I think that got, okay. He's either been golfing or he's been inside the Oval Office fuming and throwing every single person who's ever been loyal and faithful to him under the bus, starting with the vice president. He doesn't want to stay there. He's only there for the title, and he wants to stay there for his ego. He needs to get out. He needs to do the good thing, but I don't think he is capable of doing a good thing. This is the swing vote. Linda Murkowski, Alaska Senator, who has said she will bail on the Republican Party if they do not immediately distance themselves from Trump, and she appears to be very much now, at this point, in favor of the 25th, and will almost certainly vote on impeachment in either way. So, all right, so let me get caught up in a couple of other, Twitter should be required to make Trump's tweets available to, no, his tweets are already available, okay, good, okay, 40, Jake 40. So, legally, everything that goes out of that is an official White House communication. It's not supposed to be. It would never be under any other set of circumstances. It is for him because he dissolved the pool, the press pool, essentially dissolved them. So, a court deemed that That's now the White House communication, which nobody expected and has caused huge legal nightmares. That means they cannot block it, they cannot stop it, they cannot delete tweets from it. Now, it is already archived. Everything he does is already in the Library of Congress. It's in the Library of Congress. There's records of it. But they are actually not allowed to do this. However, there was a law passed, I think it was about 2 years ago, that said that they have to legally, or they risk losing the business. The company could be sued and just taken down if they don't stop any calls to violence. So this is one of the largest calls to violence you've ever seen. What do? If they leave it up, the business could be taken down. If they take it down, the business, they break the law either way. So they've taken it down. That's sort of where. Oh, okay. So that. Oh, yeah. All right. Now I get it. So the yes. So that is the 4chan of. Thank you, Jake 4D. Now I get it. Now I have actually caught up with my own live chat. So, and then let me just see if there's anything else. Rush Limbaugh has now lost his Twitter account, and so has the Stone Toss Comics, and again, Trump's campaign digital director. And Mitch McConnell is now already in the process of, that's a little surprising, procedures for a second Senate impeachment trial, which he actually doesn't have to do, because all he has to do is delay the trial 10 days, and it's not his problem anymore. So the fact that he is, so let me just quickly see if I can catch this. They will, well, he knows. So what we're looking at is by no later than close of business Wednesday, he will be successfully impeached for a second time. That impeachment will include the strongest language basically you can include against any U.S. citizen, and certainly the President of the United States, a charge of incitement to insurrection against the United States of America. That is treason. Again, this is a trial it's going to be a trial in the Senate, but these are congressional charges. They're not criminal charges, but you can get no sterner rebuke. There's no language. That's it. That's the ball game. That's Benedict Arnold. That's the whole he's turned. And again, I think that's because I think the orders of the first 1,100 were illegal. And I think he violated the Constitution and told them to actually stand up against the U.S. Congress. Oh, boy. So if that happens, now he's going to have 7 days to deal with it, maybe a little more than that. No, I think he's got about 7 days to deal with it. Now, he could stall it for 7 days. They stalled the first one for, what? I forget how long, but he can do that. So, but it looks like he's trying to figure out. Okay, so I guess he thinks that he will be impeached. Now, that's not removed from office. That is impeached with 12 days left. So what he is saying is that they will process it for consideration. And oh dear Lord, I think I may have more. Oh my God, we can't even do a show without getting through. Can I get 15 minutes without breaking news around here? Okay, so they've included 2 Republicans that would go for impeachment. They need 17, so they're a little short, and Murkowski is on that list, so that's not a miscount, unfortunately. So I don't think, but nobody's. I mean, the problem is, again, blood is in the water. Nobody wants to be the last one to condemn him. So things are going to move faster than you have ever seen them move in this country. This is a sinking ship. It is imploding, and it is imploding by the hour. This is what the last days and the last hours of the Nixon administration felt like. And he is going to go down already irrefutably as the worst president in the history of this country. The violence that has occurred in the Capitol building under his watch and ostensibly under his, at least tacit direction, is the first such violence that we've seen since the War of 1812. And Pelosi knows it. That's why she's calling him an insurrectionist. And I think he's guilty of far more than has already come out. I think the White House knows it, and that's why they're all getting out of there fast. We do know that when the Capitol building fell, according to multiple White House staffers, he was so giddy and so happy, they didn't know how, they were confused. They didn't, they couldn't process the reality of it, and they said that they were extraordinarily disturbed by his response to the Capitol being overrun, or the Capitol building being overrun. So I think, yeah. All right. So I think at that point they said they want troops in the Capitol. I said, sure, I'd love to. Oh, we're finally going to get those bastards out of there. So I think that's where we are. Matta doesn't plan to allow the Senate to review. Yeah, I wouldn't think he would. Yep, that makes sense. I think he doesn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. On the flip side, he also, this is a nightmare. This is a catastrophic nightmare. So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to double check. We just did a second rundown. We do not need to do another one. So unless I am missing something, and I don't think I have, but oh, okay, yeah, that's yeah, we have can he pardon if impeached? No. If he's impeached, he cannot pardon anyone. The president the president can pardon anyone with two exceptions. The first is he can only pardon for federal crimes. So he can't pardon, and obviously American citizens, actually not American, people for committing crimes on American soil, and federal crimes, not state crimes. So that's the first one. Second of all, he cannot pardon anyone who is currently in the process of or associated with an impeachment. If there is a judge who is being impeached, that judge cannot be pardoned by the president. The president can pardon anyone else, but not the judge. If the president is the one being impeached, he cannot pardon himself. That's another reason she wants to drop this as quickly as possible. If the Trump campaign team Twitter account now, it appears, has been deleted. He can't stop himself. And by the way, guys, I wouldn't be thrilled if my Twitter account was lost, and I was using it for business early on for a while, and a lot of stuff on there I wouldn't want to lose. I'd be bummed, but I don't live on the platform. He's going to do something crazy in the next 12 hours. He is fuming. He feels betrayed by everybody around him from Pence down, and he has no way to vent anymore. Holy smoke. Thank you, Bregwin. Yeah. So he can he self-pardon before he is impeached? The general consensus is yes. The general consensus is it shouldn't be allowed, and the intent was never to allow it, but there's nothing explicitly prohibiting it, so the general consensus is probably until or unless there was any other kind of precedent otherwise. And since this would be the first case, you'd have to have some other precedent below working its way up, establishing it. So the consensus is probably. However, the number of charges he has in other states, and by the way, again, he may not, I don't think he can pardon for crimes committed in D.C. I don't think he can pardon himself for, he can pardon himself for federal crimes. That's it. But the District of Columbia is a unique spot, and there is a mayor, there is no governor. I don't know if he can pardon himself for D.C. crimes, Washington, D.C. My suspicion is no, because I think if they have an attorney general, and I think they do, then he can't. He can't pardon himself for New York, and the New York State Attorney General is after him, and is now going to go after him, and he can't pardon. No. So Trump can get off of some of this if he chooses. Some of it he can't, and some of the big ones he can't. So he's in very serious trouble. I mean, he is in extraordinarily serious trouble. He is in, again, if this were a criminal charge, it's not. It's a charge, but it's not criminal. But it's an article of impeachment, incitement to insurrection. Insurrection is one of the very few things on the federal books for which you can be hanged. Hanged. And Pelosi has said the president has chosen to be an insurrectionist. It doesn't, no. He is in more trouble. I cannot fathom any human being fucking something up worse than this at this point. Nixon didn't fuck it up this bad. Like I said, right now he is facing more charges than Capone ever did. But, and more serious ones. So that's a Rush Limbaugh's Twitter account has been suspended. The Trump campaign has lost their Twitter account. Trump himself has lost his Twitter account. The POTUS account is still functioning, but every tweet that they send is being instantly deleted. Oh, dear Lord. Yeah. So wow, and I'm to tell you the truth, I'm going to be by my phone because I'm like, no, he's going to do something unhinged. He's going to, okay, I know the bar is set pretty high at this point, but even where the bar is, he's going to do something crazy because he is now manic. He has just in what he sent to the pool. And it looks like he was trying to send it to the press pool, but the press, I mean, there is a press pool, but it's not I don't know. Whatever he, yeah. So he's unhinged, he's manic, he's blaming everybody, and he's had every outlet. Well, this is one of the things I've said before. I am for, so long as it's done responsibly, and that is a huge caveat, because it's very difficult to do responsibly. So long as it is done responsibly, I am for the platforming of just about any human being with just about any perspective on any responsible platform. Does that mean neo-Nazis? Yes, if it's done responsibly, which means that you have somebody who knows how to properly debate and criticize a neo-Nazi without letting them turn it around so they're the victim, because that guy was attacked. It ain't easy, but if it's done right, yes. And you let them talk, you let them make themselves look like an idiot, and you make sure that all the facts are corrected and everything's, if it's done right, yes, platform just about anybody. But, hold on a sec. Yeah, okay. So I'm hold on. All right. You have to be, well, and obviously there's exceptions for inciting to violence and any number of things. And honestly, I forget where I was going to go with that. I'm sorry, I was getting distracted. Why was I talking about platforming? I don't even know. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, well, okay. I think, here's the thing. He's manic. And you have, oh, yes, now I remember. If you take a look at most of the major gun shootings, there's any number of things that you'll find that people are doing, but eventually, one of the things that you find often in common is they say, well, now they'll listen to me. Now, okay, well, we'll share that video. We've got video. We're going to bring that video up in a minute, and we've got one other video of from the riots. Although it's not like staggering video, but it's actually already in the system. I forgot it's already in the system, so I could play it at any point anyway. So, and it's graphic video. Officer, oh dear Lord. All right, we'll take a look at it. So here's the thing. When you take a look at in Norway, in Texas, the Texas state shooter. Texas state shooter comes on and says, nobody listened to me. Well, now you'll hear me. Now you'll listen to me. Now he knew by the time anyone heard that, he'd be dead. Didn't matter. He didn't care. What he cared about was that he was heard. Same thing with the guy in Norway. Jesus, I confused the Norway guy with the guy in the Land of the Elves, Hobbiton, where they shot the movie. Right off of Australia. Oh, Jesus. Somebody in the live chat will get it, but there was a shooter there, shot up a Muslim mosque, was like, I want to say 6 months ago, somewhere around there. And what he said was, they'll listen to me now. They'll listen to me now. so often, if you talk to hostage negotiators, people who try to de-escalate dangerous situations, first thing you get them to do is talk. When they're talking, they're not committing violence. As long as people are talking. That's the whole fucking point of how our government works. They spend too much time talking, but the consensus is better too much at getting too little done than going the other way around. So what you have just done is taken one of the most unstable human beings ever elected to any office in any country in the world since Caligula. I was going to say, what's his name who did Nero burning, but Caligula worked probably. That was not imagery I needed. Nero, yeah, since Nero. Thank you. The most unstable since Nero. Caligula works almost as well. I've seen the porn stars he seems to enjoy the company of. And you have denied him having any voice at a time when he feels the greatest need to speak. He feels like he's been ripped off. Yep, there it is. Trump campaign's gone. He feels the greatest need to speak. He feels victimized. He would have won if people would have just listened to him, by the way, and not for nothing. That was what Hitler was saying in the last days. If only his generals had listened to him, he got everything right. He never made a mistake in his life. It was everyone else who fucked things up. So he's going to do something really stupid. He's going to do something really stupid because that's what people do in this situation. So I don't think it's going to take much more than 12 hours. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'll have a piece of video. I'm going to play this. I mean, we played violent footage before, but if it's in the last 5 minutes of the show, I don't know I'm going to necessarily... but what we can do is I may... Oh, it's gone. No, it may not be gone. Hold on a sec. I sometimes get that from the Discord, but it's so hard. You got to get this. I'm going to download it just in case, so that we got a copy of it before, in case they do take it. All right, so what we have, all right, I don't think we need to see this, but I don't think there's any harm dropping it in the, it's already in the news section, I think. Yep, that's in the news section, so thank you, Titan. So, yeah, we have a Discord. You've seen drops to it. There are people in there. You're going to see the current news, whatever's going on, anytime, night or day. Somebody's awake who knows the kind of news we're looking for. We're not looking for, like, there's very specific stuff. It doesn't take long before you figure out what we're looking for. But you'll see we've got a news section. Oh, yeah, that's pretty serious, though. Yeah, okay, so there's video that was released of the riot at the U.S. Capitol, is what it purports to be. This is what the pro-Trump mob did to law enforcement officers. So, and it's the crushing of, this is the officer being killed, unfortunately, I think. I know it's... Yeah, we're not airing that. I mean, it's graphic, it's not gruesome, but it's, yeah. So that's, you know, if you want to come onto the Discord, and don't worry, that's not just gonna, you'll see the tweet, you'll get the warning. But come on in, hang out, chat. I will see if I can drop in for a few minutes. My voice is getting a little hoarse, but I would like to drop in and just say hi to people, because we have a lot of new people and things have been happening. So I will try to drop in. I'll be in a few minutes. And if anything is breaking that we're aware of, we'll go with it. Like I said, I think he's going to do something crazy. I think there's going to be a huge push to get him to resign. And honestly, I'm becoming, actually taking away his Twitter account makes it less likely, in my view, he's going to resign, because now he's pissed. But at some point, he loses much more the longer he stays. And he doesn't want to be impeached. He really doesn't want to be impeached. So he wants to resign by Monday. That's best for everybody if he resigns by Monday. That's why Nixon left, because he would have been impeached. He wasn't, but he would have been. He knew and it would have lost. So why go through it? Trump's going to lose. He may not lose the impeachment, may not, but he's going to be impeached, and it will be forever in the U.S. record that he was impeached with incitement for incitement of insurrection. Oh, God, please, as much as I hate the guy, just get out for everybody's sake. All right. So thank you all for putting up with me ranting a little bit on this one. This is just wow. So we will see you all tomorrow, and then tomorrow, and then tomorrow again. We do have a regularly scheduled show with Dr. Carrier coming up, and a few others, but we'll We'll get into that. Please tell me. Okay. When I get a ping as the show is shutting down, if this is like the third night in a row that as we are going to credits, I'm going to go to credits. And unless it's huge, I'm not aborting the credits. Thank you all for your support. If you've gotten to this part, please like and subscribe. It's a huge help. Please join our Discord. And thank the other mods that are there, because not only do they mod the Discord, not only do they mod this show, but they help make sure that, you know, we all who run, me, Vox, anyone else, but especially me, because usually it's me, gets what we need. They're a huge part of it. So make sure you thank them as well. Thank you